Yeah, there's a lot of distractions now for kids. I mean, in my day, there was 3 TV channels, no computers. You had 2 choices. I could go and play the drums, or I could go to the park and play soccer with my friends, or ride my bike. That was it. So when I bought a record, or my father bought a new record, you know, it was maybe once every 3 months. I got some mileage out of those records. Some of the records I listened to when I was really getting into Steve Gadd, like Big Blues, it's an album by Art Farmer and Jim Hall. And then from the year before, another Art Farmer album called Crawl Space. There is a universe of inspiration there, if you are willing to look deep enough. And those 2, I still listen to those 2 albums today, and still I'm inspired, and still hear new things that those guys played on those records. I really got a lot of mileage out of those 2 records in particular. I could hear everything, you know, I could hear beauty, I could hear groove, I could hear great ideas coming from Steve Gadd. And I was influenced by the other musicians, you know, I could sing every solo, note for note, on both of those albums. And so hearing Art Farmer play, or hearing Eric Gale play guitar, was having an effect on my drumming. You know, I could hear the way he phrased, I could hear the emotion and the intent that he was playing with. And, you know, listening to those records, even now, you know, I sit on a plane, I've got my iPod, I've got, I don't know, 700 albums on there. And I quite often end up just going back to the albums I listened to when I was 15 to 20. Maybe those years are the most important years to you in terms of influence. And really, you know, maybe I sound like an old man, you know, the things they were playing back then still does it for me. I still listen to those records and think that is just real magic. You know, there really was, and still is, a lot of influence and inspiration in those records. It wasn't like, you know, a friend would come round and, I don't know, give me a hard drive with 100 albums on. How can I digest 100 albums in one go? Maybe it was luck or a good thing that the things I had to absorb were coming nice and slowly and gave me a chance to really absorb them. You know, if my dad went and bought a new jazz album, I might listen to it 200 or 300 times before I got the next album. I didn't always love it immediately, but I would start to find things that were interesting. I started to listen more carefully. And when I had enough money to buy a record myself, it was a big choice. It was a lot of money to me. I'd blow all my pocket money on one album, and then I'd listen to it for months, you know, and really get something out of it. I can see now, even now with my iPod with 700 albums on, sometimes I sit on the plane, I look through and I think, I can't think of anything I want to listen to. I look down all this list, I can't think what I want to listen to. I'm just blinded by choice. I'm just absolutely smothered by the amount of choice. It's like with keyboard, you buy a keyboard today, there's like 2,000 sounds on it. You know, if you bought a Fender Rhodes back in 1970, it only really had one sound. If you wanted to change the sound, you had to work at changing the sound with pedals and effects and reverbs. And the way that you played, you could make different sounds, the force that you used on the Fender Rhodes. So you were making the sounds. When you buy a synth and it's got 2,000 sounds, you just sit there going through each sound, and after about 200 sounds, you just leave it and walk away, just bogged down with too much choice. And maybe kids have that today with the internet, with the PlayStations, Xbox, I don't know what they're called anymore. You know, all these games, the virtual life stuff you can have on the internet, you know, World of Warcraft, these kind of things. You can have a whole virtual existence all in your bedroom without interacting with anyone. Playing music when I was a kid with friends of my father's or kids from school, you know, I was having social interaction. I go to the park and play cricket with my friends. We were socially interacting. I get worried that kids are just sitting in their room on their own with their headphones on, staring at a TV, you know, a computer monitor, and having some existence that I can't understand. I really don't get it. I mean, music was something so precious to me. I would go around to a friend's house and we would listen to an album, you know, back to back. We listened to the same album like 3 times. you know, and just sit there with our eyes closed saying, oh, that was amazing. It was a night out listening to an album. Now it's just something you put on in the background of a fast food restaurant while someone's chewing bubble gum and wiping up the floor. It's lost all value. Maybe because of the amount of stuff that's available, people have just lost the value of it. It's something really precious if you know how to get something out of music. If you just put it on while you're skateboarding down the road, and it's just, it's a shame to me, because it's been a whole life for me, and I'm sure for you too. It's been such a life-changing thing. You know, it's been my whole life listening and playing music.